Hey everyone, thanks for joining. Today I'm speaking again with Khadija Khan, and Khadija is a journalist and a broadcaster. She speaks a lot about human rights, and she also speaks quite a bit about Islam. Hi Khadija, thanks for coming on.
Thank you so much, Matt, for having me. It's
Yeah.
a pleasure to be on the podcast again.
Yeah. Yeah, look, I reached out to you because I wanted to speak a bit about the blasphemy laws and stuff in the UK and then like hijab and niqab bans. So we were just talking about the hijab and the niqab before we started. So if you want to continue on that, and then we can just take it from there.
Yeah, I mean, it's an open secret that this attire comes with an ideology, and that ideology is inherently misogynistic. It is discriminatory. It is an emblem of gender apartheid in Muslim majority countries. And wherever you see the radicals or the literalists, they seize power, they use it as an instrument to control women. It happened when IS they established their so-called caliphate, and then it happened when Taliban they took uh, you know, they took over Afghanistan. And it happened wherever you see the Islamist or the radicals or the Muslim fundamentalists, they seize power, they immediately bring hijab imposition laws, they bring niqab or burqa imposition laws just to control women. And it is self-evident. And when we talk about banning hijab or banning burqa, first of all, the concept of banning burqa is a very disingenuous, I would say, portrayal of what is happening in Europe, in some countries of Europe, because this ban is not about banning an attire or a religious attire of a certain section of the society. It is about banning niqab, the face covering,
Mhm.
and it includes all kind of face covering. It's not about targeting some specific group or faith group. So I think it's highly disingenuous to categorize it as such. And why it is being done, it is being done over the concerns about security, over the concerns about integration, over the concerns about gender equality, and the similar concerns when they were, you know, like they got attention from the authorities in some Muslim majority countries. They also banned these attires in public places and in educational institution. Just recently, Tajikistan, they have banned this attire over the concerns about security, over the concerns about integration. No, they call it alien attire, which is alien to their local culture. So they want to preserve their culture and then counter a radical interpretation of Islam. So when we are talking about banning niqab or burqa, there are legitimate concerns, and we need to discuss those concerns. Saying that banning something is what we don't want to do, I think it's a kind of turning a blind eye to the reality, and the reality is grim. You would agree with me
Okay.
that it's not happening. The gender equality issue is not happening in Muslim majority countries only. We also have this issue in the West where there are minority within minorities. So we need to discuss these issues. And why not? If we claim to be a vibrant, democratic, societies, then why cannot we discuss such issues which are contentious, which are about women's rights, human rights, and which are about security concerns?
Okay, I'm not going to disagree with anything that you said there. Like I've spoken out about the hijab. I don't know if you were on that stream, but there was Yasmin, Asra.
I was,
Yeah, yeah. So we did like a hijab day stream, and it was so.
yeah.
I mean, like I agree with you 100% that it's misogynistic. My Where I'm coming at this from is okay. Like I said, the niqab. I think I understand the security concerns, and there are places that already have, you know, laws against covering your face and stuff like that. Like, so no motorcycle helmets, blah 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 blah. I'm okay with that. Okay, that's yes, that's not targeting. If that law was already in place, and someone's wearing a niqab saying, "Sorry, this law is here. You got to take that off." It's not targeting the niqab, right? Like, I'm okay with that. I understand the security concerns. It's happened in Saudi a couple of times where a man, like, I don't know why, with malicious intent. I don't know if it's terrorism or not, but you know, got caught wearing a hijab, wearing a niqab because they got the full on burqa and everything, and you can't tell if it's a man or a woman, and um, so yeah, I get all that, and the women's thing too. Like I 100% get that, but my thing is, um, okay, the way they did it in Quebec. So the first thing they said is they're going to have a hijab and niqab ban. Then they said, "Oh no, 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 it's all religions." At the same point they were saying that, like the assembly rooms, some of the conference rooms, and the main room where they signed all the laws, they had these giant crucifixes in them. Okay, but they weren't removing those. And he's like, "Oh, that's just our history." So there was something there. It wasn't just, "Oh, we're banning all religious stuff." And then when the law finally did come out, the premier of Quebec said, "Oh, we're going to put a special focus on Islam." Again, if you're doing it across the board, no religious symbols in government. And this was not in general public. This was in government offices, and this was in, like, schools. If you're a judge, I in the lawyers, in the barristers in the UK, just same thing in Canada. They wear those. Well, I don't think they wear the silly wigs in Canada, but they wear the robes and all that. Like, so they have. So there is that, and they're doing it across the board. But when they say they're going to put a special focus on Islam, that again, like, so you're targeting something specifically. You're not just doing it because, okay, we're doing it across the board. I mean, that's what the law says, but you put a special focus on Islam. So that's where I have some issues with it. And I think fundamentally it does come, if you have freedom of religion, you should, and I'm not saying that hijab is a choice. I mean, we can go back and forth with the hadith and the verses in the Quran, all that. Like, I know it's indoctrinated into little kids, from a very, very young age. I mean, hell, you've got pictures of like 3-year-old girls in like full on burqa, and it's ridiculous. We can work out those things, but I think once someone's an adult, for the most part, they should have the right to choose. Like I said, a Sikh man wearing a turban. Okay, Orthodox and Hasidic Jews, some sects of them, some parts of them, they shave the woman's head and she wears a wig called a sheitel. Are we going to ban those? Like it's so that's what I mean. Like, we got to look at this very carefully, and um, as far as little kids and everything are concerned, if someone's not an adult, someone's not of legal age, then fine. Is it being forced? What's being taught? I think the abomination that is World Hijab Day should be gone. I don't think they should be celebrating it. They can talk about it in schools. Some people say it's a choice. Some people say it's not. Like, I mean, they can have that discussion in schools. Yeah, it shouldn't be celebrated, but I don't think, again, that we should tell people what they can and cannot wear. I think the niqab is a different thing because of, like, the security issues you brought up, and also if you're serving the public, if you are in any kind of position of authority, and you can't hide your face. You have to show your face. But if you're walking down the street, and yeah, if the one's being made to, and it's almost impossible for one of those women usually to speak up or get help. I get that, but if a woman's being made to, that's one thing. But it's the forcing of whether you're forcing someone to wear it or saying you can't wear it. That's where I have an issue with that. Like,
There are
like that's where I'm coming from.
some things that I would like to address one by one. First
Sure.
of all, I know when it was banned in Quebec, and I remember when it was banned, and there were some Muslims in the courtroom, and they were in favor of banning it because they said, and I reported on this issue, I wrote about it, and they said that it's not a religious attire and it should not be presented as such. So it's not about religious freedom. It is an attire which includes coercion, and there is force and, intimidation. It is included. So we cannot say that all Muslims, they take it in the same way. It's a contentious issue,
Yeah,
and there is a huge debate among Muslims about that. And then there is someone here in the UK, Fayaz Mughal, I would like to mention his name. He's a very vocal critic of extreme version of religion, and he is very much in favor of promoting British values, democracy, tolerance, and all that. And this same question was put to him on a national TV show, and his response was brilliant, I would say, because he said that we are living in a country, the culture, when we say that they have a holiday for Christmas, or they have their traditions which are associated or related to Christianity. So we need to understand that this country has a history, and this history goes back to 500-600 years uh, ago, and we need to realize that this is a part of the culture of this country. And when we talk about Islam given the same status, the debate was about, should Eid be like, should Eid be given a holiday on Eid? Muslims should be given a holiday on Eid day, or Eid day should be celebrated as a holiday in the UK. So his point was that there is no need for that. We celebrate our occasions, we like express our religious identity the way we want, and we exercise our right to practice our religion freely. There is no coercion, and there is no constraint placed upon us, and we are very much free in our lives. So why we are, making such demands which are creating this divisive narrative? Why not just bring all people together with the same narrative? And if there is something which is associated with the culture of a country, why not just embrace it? Why not just be one with the mainstream society? Why we are just creating enclaves, in a society which is diverse in their opinions, and they want to embrace, people from different backgrounds and the faith. I mean, you would agree with me, Muslims enjoy more freedom in Western democracies than any other Muslim majority country. So there is no need to make
100%.
such issues, in my opinion. And when we say specifically targeting Islam, I think we have to realize this one thing, that there is some problem with certain interpretation of Islam. I mean, today you can criticize Christianity and the way you want, the way it pleases you, but you would not be facing any consequence for that. Maybe some people will get offended, but you will not be facing any consequences for that. However, when you talk about Islam, when you criticize Islam, then there is a problem. People, they face fatal consequences. And the recent example of such case is when a man, he is a Kurdish man from Turkey, and he has been convicted because he burned a copy of Quran outside the consulate of Turkey in London in protest against Islamization of his own country. So that is a problem with certain interpretation of Islam. So if there is a specific focus being placed on Islam, I think it is not like, you cannot say that it is for no reason, or it should not be like that. We have to address these issues, and when we will address these issues, then the focus will be automatically put on, Islam will be in the spotlight,
Okay.
and we cannot shy away from it anymore. I think now we are living in a very precarious state, especially in Britain, I would say, when a man has been
Okay.
convicted for religiously aggravated public order offense because he did something which was
Yeah.
deemed
Okay.
offensive for religious people, in this case, of course, Muslims. So it should be all fair if we are putting, particular specific focus on Islam, on the issues which are related to Islam, because they are causing problem in the
Yeah,
mainstream society. And of course, people within the community, they are also suffering.
I have no problem putting focus on Islam. Like if you're doing, I mean, Canada's a prime example. You know, oh, we're going to look into extremism, this and that. Oh, we're going to focus on the far right. And they, if you mention Islam, it's Islamophobia, whatever. No, okay. And I'm not saying the hijab and the niqab aren't extreme, and I understand the extreme portions of Islam. But when you're looking into extremism, you can include those things. But when you're making a law saying we're going to get rid of all religious symbols, and we're going to pay special attention to the Islamic symbols because we're putting a focus on those because we're concentrating on getting rid of those first. I mean, that was basically what he said. I could go back and find the exact quote, but that was just what he's saying. So I'm saying in that context there, not in a look, yeah. I think out of any religion, I think out of most ideologies, except for maybe in the West right now, the woke. But I think, if you're looking at extremism, look at Islam. I have no problem with that. Put a focus on it in that sense. And then, yes, you can bring the hijab and the niqab into the part of the extremism of Islam. Okay. I'm not discounting any of that, but I'm just saying if you're making a law with the express intent of getting rid of religious symbols from public spaces, but then you say we're going to pay special attention to the symbols of Islam because we want to focus on getting rid of those. Like that's where I think that's wrong. Yeah, okay, we're looking at extremism. We want to focus on Islam. Yeah, 100%. Go
I
ahead.
think
I'm not, you're not going to look at Quakers for Christ's
Arguably, I
sakes.
would
You know.
say the French model is quite fair, because when they say that they want to ban all religious and philosophical symbols, so they do it or apply it across the board. But of course, we have we don't espouse here in the UK the model of laïcité that is in France. The British
Yeah,
secularism is different from laïcité. So here they believe in diversity, and they just want to embrace all the diversity, and all cultures are respectable and all religions are respectable, these kind of stuff.
yeah,
The thing is, um, when we talk about religious symbols, and when we single out uh, burqa, niqab, or hijab, and we want to discuss it in terms of gender equality issue, and we say that it is about women's right, it is about girls' right to make a choice, to make an informed choice, because as you just said, that girls, they are brainwashed into wearing it from a very early age. So we see that in fact, I would like to pose this question to you. Please let me know how many times people are being tortured, or in worst cases killed, for not wearing other religious symbols in the Western society. We are not talking about Muslim countries right now. We're talking about specifically Western democracies.
mm,
There are different religious symbols people wear. And tell me the incident that you are aware of, that when people were abused into wearing them, and people were forced into wearing them, and from an early age people were forced, and their childhood was robbed of, on the pretext of protecting religious and culture sensibilities. We see this kind of specific, implication of cultural and religious tradition and belief in the case of this burqa, niqab, and hijab, when girls, they are wearing it quietly, submissively, and they are being obedient. There is no noise, there is no commotion. However, where there is a commotion, there is a fatal consequence. Just recently, a man has been convicted here in the UK. He he was obsessed, with this kind of, with controlling his wife, and he would tell his wife not to wear makeup, not to talk to your friends, and blah 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 blah. and that kind of control and abusive behavior, it it drove him to that extent where he killed his wife. She was wearing hijab, she was pushing his baby in pram in broad daylight, and he slit her throat. Nobody wants to talk about it, that he was abusive, and part of his abuse or coercion was to stop his wife from being an independent person, to do makeup, to go out with friends, to have her own life, to do job. He didn't like it. He wanted to just make her wife obedient. And in doing so, he threatened her. And he was reported to the authorities. He was. However, the authorities, they were failed to protect that woman. And now we know a woman has been killed. And we don't know how many are suffering in silence, because I know this kind of mindset that that is
Yeah.
perpetuated under the pretext of modesty, Islamic modesty in Muslim culture. It drives, legitimacy from religious discourse.
Um,
And then, of course, it is acceptable. It is like I have seen literally when a woman complains that my husband is so controlling and he tells me all the time, don't do this, don't do that. Literally, people said, why don't you listen to him? After all, he's your husband. You're supposed to do what he tells you. So this kind of mindset is only
yeah.
attached to the ideology that comes with this attire. So if again, I would say that
Okay.
if there
I
is a
like look.
specific focus being placed on this one attire among other religious symbols, that is justified.
Okay, I look, I'm not going to argue with you again about that. I agree with you. The mindset that comes with forcing a woman to put on the hijab, and especially like if you go to the burqa and all that, like yes, it's denying her any individuality and any independence. I'm not going to argue that. If someone is controlling and doing that, and that woman is only wearing the hijab or the niqab because she's being forced, she's got a job outside the house, she goes, teaches, whatever. She gets to leave that environment for a while. Yes, she's still wearing the hijab or the niqab in like extreme cases, but she's gotten away from that situation. If these bans come in, will she be allowed to work in that job still? If that
I can
person will not let them
explain.
work in that
First, you
job,
finish your the thing, and I
uh,
will.
yeah, yeah, but I mean, like that's one thing with me. Again, I'm not discounting anything you say, but when you look at if you want to look at Islam from an extremism point of view, look at it from an extremism point of view and attack that. But if you're making a blanket law, okay, it's not as extreme, and I can't give you concrete examples, but if you look into people who've left Orthodox, like very Orthodox, and especially Hasidic Judaism, they're very, very close societies as well. A lot of stuff goes on that doesn't get reported.
I agree.
Um, Now, okay, and I've spoken to a couple of people who've left Hasidic Judaism, and they talk about, the misogyny, the abuse of women. It's okay, it's not to the extent of Islam, and I'm not trying to, but they do still have it. And like what I'd mentioned to you before, some of the women in some of like the more hardcore Orthodox and Hasidic sects shave their head and put on a wig, and that's forced on them. They have to do it. Okay, so there is wife beating, there is all that kind of stuff that goes on in these communities as well. They're very enclosed. That's not talked about either. And I'm like I said, I'm not equating it to Islam, but if you want to do it on that aspect, then put a focus on those things because there are those like there's a lot less Jews. They're not violent. I'm not, like trying to say, but there is that misogyny, everything going on in there. What I'm just saying is you want to do a blanket thing across all religions. I don't care. Do a blanket thing across all religions, fine. But when you specifically say that you're going to do it, I get what you're saying, but we're going to ban all symbols, but we're going to specifically focus on banning Islamic symbols. Okay. I'm not calling it racism, but there is a form of bigotry going on there because, like, it's especially when you look at the value, like the evolution of the law. It started with only Islam. Then they said, okay, all religions, but they were going to keep up the Christian symbols in the parliament. I mean, in the assembly hall where they sign the bills and all that. Okay, if you want to talk about laïcité, get Christianity out of politics, right? Like, I mean, that's a huge thing. So it was things like that. If it had just come out, it's a blanket thing saying we're banning all of it,
See,
fine, fill your boots.
like I'm a
And it,
secularist, so for me, there should be no connection between religion and the state. There should be a total separation. This is how I would like to see all the societies. I don't want to see religion in power corridor, residing in power corridors. Not at all. This is a
yeah,
blanket, thing for all the religious beliefs.
yeah,
Because I know that whenever religion resides in power corridors, it's always the vulnerable section of all the communities suffer. And when you talk about misogyny coming from other religions, of course there is misogyny. Of course there is a discrimination. And I would be the first one to condemn it and to say that yes, it should not be happening, whether it's coming from Jewish community, Christian community, Hindu community, or any other community for that matter. The problem is about protecting women. And here in the UK, I have seen Sikh women, they are working on these issues about, highlighting violence, in certain section of their communities. I have seen Jewish women who are working on this issue, and I'm hoping to have one of those brave women on my podcast very soon, and we're going to talk about all these things that you just said. And then I know that there are women who are like Christian, but they are, working on these issues. But why it is different with Muslim communities, whenever a Muslim woman, she wants to talk about violence against women, which is taking place within the communities, Muslim communities, she is always told to to be shut up. Why? Because
yeah.
there
Okay,
is a section that is a minority, but it's very influential, it's very vocal. They have normalized this thing that whenever you want to talk about is any aspect of Islam for that matter, you would be branded as an Islamophobe, or you would be branded as a troublemaker who just want to create a tension for no reason between the communities. And there these kind of things are used as a weapon, I would say, against dissent within the Muslim community, just to silence them, just to tell them that, oh, please don't talk about these things, because you are bringing disrepute to the whole community. When you, for example, take the example, like we can take the example of grooming gang scandal. People from within the Muslim community,
yep,
they want to talk about it, but they are told always, not only by religious fundamentalists, but also well-meaning British liberals, that why you are talking about it? There are already so many people outside the community, they are talking about it. Why are you talking about it? Because when you will talk about it, you know, you will give legitimacy to the right-wing narrative. And because of that thing, I can tell you, there are
yeah.
people, they have stopped talking about it because, of course, they don't want to be, giving any sort of credence to right-wing narrative. But in doing so, are they doing any favor to those people who are vulnerable, not only outside of the community, but also within their own communities? Are they doing any favor to them? So I would say
Okay,
that
look,
when we say this, that we need to put specific focus on Islam, I think we should go ahead with that, because I know that I'm going to say there are Jewish readings, Christian readings, Hindu readings which are misogynistic. I might offend some people. However, I'm not going to face any consequence. But with every breath I take while talking about Islam, I attract not only criticism, but all bad energies around me. And they are included
oh,
death threats. So it's not easy to
look,
talk
I'm
about
not okay.
Islam, just
Again,
to be honest. People would say that, oh, Islam is being
yeah, yeah, no, no, I'm
targeted,
like,
or Islam is being, singled out. let's accept this reality that it's not easy to talk about Islam. You can talk about any other religion, but you cannot talk about Islam.
Okay, I'm not going to disagree with most of what you said, but just a couple of things. So yes, you only have the mullahs with the beards or the hijab, hijabi women come on the news and this and that. Part of that is also the media. Part of that, like you said, well-meaning liberals and stuff. Okay, so I'll give you a couple of examples of what I mean about the media. So in 2015-ish, there was a young girl in New York City. She came home. Her hijab was missing. She told her parents that some guy ripped it off. They went and filed a police report. Then it came to light that she made it all up, and then she was being charged for, mischief, like something about like false allegations and like, wasting the police's time and stuff. Then there was pictures of her in the courtroom. Her father had
Yeah.
shaved her head.
No,
The press never
no, the
focused on that.
focus.
No one focused on that. Like, okay, okay, the focus should have been what caused her father to shave her head, and why did she lie about losing the hijab? Because she knew the repercussions of what was going to happen. Okay, yes, there is a huge silence, and there's a lot of idiocy and a lot of intimidation. I see it with my family. I have uncles who talk about, oh, this imam at the mosque, he's a little too political. I don't like. I'm like, did you say anything? Oh no, we can't do that. I mean, yeah, I get all that. I understand what you're saying. My only thing, again, if you want to put a focus on Islam, on where the extremism is coming from, and put a focus on some of these mosques, like if there's a clip of an imam from a mosque that's saying kill all the infidels or whatever, right? Go put a focus on that mosque. Look at that sect of Islam. Look at like, is it a Deobandi mosque? Is it, whatever? Like, I don't care. Like, just go look at them and figure it out. Like, 100%, if but I understand what all these symbols mean, but I'm just saying that make a like the way they did it in Quebec, and I know a lot of people make things like, oh, like the law you were talking about where they're banning all face coverings and everything, and everyone's making it about the niqab because that's what they're focusing on, right? Like I don't mean the government, I mean these people are like, oh, well, you're getting rid of their religious rights. No, but they're banning it blanketly. I'm okay with that. But the way they did it here, it was, oh, we're like, we want secularism, we want laïcité, we want all these symbols out. We're going to get make sure the Muslim ones go out first. Like it's
I
that
agree
to me
with
is
you.
not
I
right.
agree with you. I mean, it's
Okay.
when it comes to protecting people from bigotry, I'm all for that. I don't want to target Muslims. I don't want to talk about Muslims. I'm talking about Islam. I'm talking about ideas
Yep.
which derive legitimacy from Islamic discourse. And hijab, niqab, burqa, it is one of those ideas. And we don't know that this one attire has been the most successful tool to control a woman. You just make her invisible when you put these kind of clothing on her.
Yeah.
You restrict her instinct, I would say, to express herself freely.
Mm.
There is a kind of restriction that is being placed on her conscious to think freely, just to go beyond this attire. Just to, I
Yeah.
mean, you would say that in front or I mean it's a common actually question that people they put to me
Mhm.
that in France they have banned hijab in secondary schools. So what's the result? Was were these girls they just stop wearing it, or what's going on there? Or isn't it true that more women are wearing it? So there are these kind of assumptions, they use to just uh, uh, I would say rebut the idea of banning hijab for girls, for children. So there is no such thing that there is no result or there is nothing good coming out of it. In 2022, there was a study conducted in uh, the Paris School of Economics, and in that study, it was revealed that Muslim girls they get better grades and increase the likelihood they would marry someone outside of their community and religion in France after this ban has been in place. And this is a huge thing that girls who had to carry this religious and cultural, I would say, baggage, wherever they would go, they have this freedom in schools now, at least, to go look beyond these attires and, to discover more in real world. They are not constrained anymore. So there is a possibility that a couple of girls would say that, okay, we are not going to continue with this, or their parents, most probably, it's the parents, it's the family who are going to just tell them, oh, without this, you cannot go to school and all that. But we have to start from somewhere, I would say, to challenge this idea of modesty for
Mm.
women and girls, because we know that this is an ideology. It's prevalent not only in Muslim majority country, but also in the West. The woman's body has been compartmentalized, to be very honest, according to the length of her clothing. I mean, the more lengthy and covered clothes you are wearing, the more modest and pious and righteous you are. And it is a concept that is taking root now in Western democracies, that women who are wearing it, they deserve some kind of extra respect because they are very religious. And women who are not wearing it, they are independent, very vocal women. So let's just be harsh on them. That's no problem. However, when we see a woman being
Yeah.
covered, suddenly the whole attitude, the behavior, it's changed. And I think it's misogynistic in itself, this kind of attitude that when you start respecting women according to the length of her clothing, whether you are coming from Muslim background or whatever background. So problem is the ideology. It's not the Muslims. When we talk about Islam, we first of all we have to make this distinction that when we are talking about Islam, we are not talking about Muslims because I know that Muslims are not one race. Muslims are not one homogeneous group. There is diversity. People are coming from different backgrounds, from different cultures, and these kind of issues are contentious. They are having debates about them, and many Muslim women, they don't wear it when they have this option to not to wear it. So we know that when we're talking about Islam, we're not talking about Muslims. So just conflating it that, okay, you
Mm.
are putting more focus on hijab, that means you're targeting Muslim. I think that is very wrong because when we are putting focus on hijab, we are putting focus on the ideology that is coming with this attire. Because if there is any other attire that comes with this such ideology that looks down on women because women is showing her skin, showing their skin, I think that is problematic, and we cannot just stop criticizing it just because this conflated notion that criticizing Islam is akin to criticizing Muslim has been established in certain section of our society, and it's been pushed, this idea being pushed in political, discourse. I think that would be the ultimate demise of free speech, the ultimate demise of the preservation of human rights, of women's right, when we will stop talking about such, misogynistic ideas.
Okay. Again, like that, I agree with. I don't think criticizing Islam, criticizing the ideas in Islam, okay, I have no problem with. All I'm just saying is you have to be careful when you're doing these things. That's why I haven't read the French law, so I can't say, and I'm taking I believe what you say about it, and I've read a couple of little stories here and there, but if it's a global thing and it comes out globally at one shot, that's fine. But if you just knowing the history of what they tried to do in Quebec when they were making this law, first they said it's going to be law for laïcité, and they were going to and it's just going to be banning Muslim symbols. So if it's laïcité, then it should be all religious symbols. It's not just one religion. Okay, so there was that. Then again, like I said, just the progression of it. But when they finally did push it out, based on the symbols, they were like, "Oh, we are going to go after, Islamic and Muslim symbols. I mean, like that's what they were focusing on first. That's where I disagree with it. But if you're talking about the ideas and you're talking about, no, I don't conflate the ideas with Muslims and even, but I mean, if you're going to focus on the hijab before you focus on Sikh turbans, okay, and I get the difference between,
There is
um,
no, it's like, see,
terrorism
there is
from
one
one.
religious symbol that is an infringement on girls' right, on women's right, and there is one religious
Yeah,
symbol that is being used or worn by men, and we see that men are doing it like all out of choice, and even Sikh men, they have this liberty to take it off, and they are not being stigmatized in their community when they take it off. There are Sikh men who don't wear turban, so they are not stigmatized, they are not
yeah,
alienated, and they are not ostracized by
okay,
their
but
community or by their family members. So I think there is a huge difference when we are talking about uh,
no, okay, no, there's a no, but there's a huge difference between the hijab and the Sikh turban, okay? There's a huge difference in there. But what I'm saying is if it's coming from the state and they're making a law, that law cannot put a special, I mean, the symbol is worse, and what the hijab signifies is worse than the Sikh turban, okay? I'm not arguing that point. But if you're going to make that law from the state and you're putting the power of the state behind it, you can't then just focus more on one community than on another. You can say, okay, if it's not enforced, like if we see more infringements coming from, the Muslim community, or like if we, from if we see the hijab's not going away, it's still staying in place and we're having problems. Like that's a different story. But when you first put the law out, okay, you have to put the law out so this applies to everyone equally, and they weren't. And that's my issue with it. It's not like I understand that the Sikh turban and the hijab are two different things, and it's not that it's nearly the same level of oppression from one to the other. Okay, hijab is far worse. But when it's coming from the state cannot then just say, okay, we're going to focus only on this one
wait.
thing, and
When
but
for
that's what I'm saying.
adults, I'm not talking about for adults, banning it for adult women. I'm not talking about that. For me, it's like when we would talk about banning hijab, it should be banned in primary schools and secondary schools. It should be. And to be very honest,
I'm
and
fine with
I
that
don't
100%.
feel bad about saying it. I know that when I say this here in the UK, literally people go like, "Oh, what have you said? You're talking about banning something." I don't care what you think about me because I know that when you are a child, when you are a young girl, you have no agency, you have no power to say or to refuse to wear it. You have to do it because you are told to do it. And from an early age, when you are used to do
Yeah.
something, of course, there is always this excuse that you cannot take it off now because it is like I was told by my father that you once you have started wearing it, now you cannot take it off because this is the honor of your family. This is the honor of your religion, and your father's honor. You are wearing it on your head. Once it's taken off, everything is just gone. You will bring disrepute to the whole family, to the religion,
Okay.
to the culture. So I know that the girls and children, they don't have any power to say, I don't want to wear it. So I don't feel bad about it. I'm very much
Okay.
unequivocal. But when we talk
100%.
about burqa and niqab, that is another story. Now, I say that ban
Yep.
it, but not like authoritatively. I'm not saying that you should be just tomorrow announcing it that, okay, now we have banned burqa and niqab. We live in Western democracy. We believe in democracy and we believe in the principle of having open and honest discussion on the issues which are very crucial and which are concerning matters for the public. So, if there is this issue of burqa and niqab that conceals one's identity in public spaces, it is an issue of gender equality, it is an issue of integration here in the UK. Let's talk about it. Let people discuss this issue.
Yeah.
Don't conflate it with bigotry against Muslims. Let people have an open discussion. And if people they come to a consensus, overall majority, and I'm also talking about Muslim community, because I know there are people in Muslim community, they literally think that it should not be a norm. It should not be a norm. They say it
Okay, look,
themselves, and they say it on national TV here in the UK. There is a Muslim imam, Dr. Taj, and he's very like vocal critic of burqa and niqab, and he has said this that these kind of things have no place in free Western democracies. So let people talk about it. And if there is a consensus, for example,
100%.
when the hijab was banned in France, in schools, in public spaces, 70% French, they supported that ban. So it was not a decision which was taken by the state. It was the French public. They wanted to have this, law being placed. And so
Yeah,
it happened. And the same thing I want for the UK, for Canada, for all Western democracy. Let's have a discussion. Let's talk about it. And then we try to bring people,
yeah.
together in our acknowledgement of the danger that poses this kind of ideology that is inherently misogynistic.
Okay, look, I'm again, schoolgirls, primary, secondary, yeah, fine. Ban it in schools. Um, I have no problem with that. Let adults decide what they want to do. The niqab and the burqa, if you're doing it based on security concerns and you're banning all face coverings, you're banning,
Yes.
everything 100%, go for it. I have no problem. Again, like it's just like I said, it was I don't know the law in France, but I know enough about it, and from like what you're saying, I have no problem with that in and of itself. It was just the way it was introduced in Quebec, where I'm saying, okay, you're stepping on some rights here now. You're not doing it fairly. And so if you want to do it, but have it across the board. And it's I don't think like I don't think police women should be wearing the hijab. I don't think in the military they should be wearing the hijab. And it's the same thing for Sikh turbans, because there was a big issue in Canada at one point with the RCMP. They wanted to wear Sikh turbans. And they also went as far as saying the turban, you don't need a motorcycle helmet because a turban provides you enough as the same protection as a
Of
motorcycle
course, I
helmet, which I
mean,
mean is
come
ridiculous.
on.
Yeah, but
That's so
no, but I mean
ridiculous.
they
Because,
were trying that
yes,
kind of stuff. Yeah, yeah. But I mean, like I get that. Like for certain jobs, like the police, the military, if you're a judge, if you're a teacher, you know, um, you have to be independent. And even then, like teachers, if a teacher's wearing a hijab, I don't see that as unduly influencing kids unless the teacher's proselytizing, right? If a kid says, "Why do you wear that?" and the teacher's like, "Well, it's part of my religion," and just leaves it at
yes.
that, that's fine.
But you know what happens? Dawa, you know that. It's all about dawa. That whatever you are doing as a Muslim, you have to propagate, you have to influence people.
Uh,
And
yeah,
I don't mind it. In a free society, we are free to do that. I mean, we are free to persuade
uh,
people, into believing or into joining us in our beliefs or whatever philosophical or religious principle we adhere to. So I don't have a problem with that. I have a problem when they allow certain groups in the society to do so, but then they don't allow certain groups to condemn something which is incompatible with human rights, especially when it is coming from religion. I mean, I can discuss misogyny in all contexts. I can say whatever I want to say about Andrea Tate. I can say whatever I want to say, about other people who are being misogynistic and who has been, involved in such things which are very much anti-woman and blah blah blah. However, when I start talking about Islam or religion, as a whole, that it is misogynistic, it is anti-women. there is this thing, oh, come on. You don't really mean that. Oh, why are you so
Well,
harsh on Islam? I mean, come on, Islam is just another religion, like other religion. So my issue is that let people talk about the things they would like to propagate, but then let me also exercise
exactly.
my right to say, I don't agree with you. I condemn it.
No, 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 100%. Um, look, I think we, like I said, mainly agree on most of this stuff. But I don't want to take up too much of your time, but I want to get back to, because you mentioned that Turkish guy, or the guy in front of the Turkish embassy who burnt the Quran. And this is something that I've been talking about since I think it was around 2018-ish. There was a bunch of videos coming out of Iran of people burning the Quran. And they were like saying things like, "This book has destroyed my country. I hate this book, and I'm going to burn it." Blah 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 blah. I made a video and put it out. I said, "Look, I understand. I mean, I like the people doing it in Iran. I have nothing but respect for their
I
courage
know
because
that.
that's
Yes, yes,
insanely
of
brave."
course.
Okay, like okay, um, but my thing was, don't take the lessons of that book and of the mullahs to heart too much because the followers of that book and the mullahs will burn things that they don't like. Like ISIS will go destroy statues of, of old religions, like things thousands of years old. The Taliban blew up the Buddhas in Afghanistan. Like I saw the empty caverns where the Buddhas used to be. I mean, it's don't take that to heart. I was like saying, you want to spread a message that shows that that book is no good. Pick up something like On Liberty, pick up some Thomas Paine and read that message out loud and spread that. Like it was like the guy who burnt the Quran, like my take on burning the Quran and on blasphemy laws, it's like, okay, blasphemy laws in general are an obscenity. Okay. Blasphemy laws coming from Western liberal democracies are a complete and utter betrayal. But burning the Quran to oppose blasphemy laws is one of the stupidest ways to oppose blasphemy laws. Okay. Like I don't think the guy should go to prison, nor do I think he should be made into a martyr or a free speech hero. Okay. Like I think if you like burning a book is the stupidest way to protest that book. If you're opposed to the laws in the UK and Denmark or whatever, print out a copy of the laws and burn those. If the guy wanted to blaspheme against Islam, he could have gone up in front of the Turkish embassy and he could have said, the Quran is a book on a guide on how to have sex with pigs. Muhammad had sex with more pigs than anyone ever, and Allah loves. Okay, like I mean, that's blaspheming against
Yeah,
the Quran in a
I
pretty big way.
completely agree with you. I always say whether it is satanic verses that Muslims love to burn
Yeah,
or Quran, I don't approve of burning any book. This is not me. Personally, if I need to protest, I would like to tear apart the ideas contained, in that book if I want to protest against that book. It's not my way of protesting. However, that being said, I defend that man's right to protest by burning a copy of Quran because we don't have a blasphemy law here in the UK, and that act of protesting should not be categorized as a crime or offense in any way. That is, I think, again, one of the biggest threat to free speech that we are having it. I'm not turning that man into a martyr. The problem is that this is the choice of that man. He decided to protest like that. And as a conscious man in a free democratic society, he is free to do so, as Muslims did when Satanic Verses was published. The Muslims, they burned the copies of Satanic Verses. And to be very honest, here in the
mhm.
UK, I would really doubt if somebody would say that I'm going to publish, another copy of Satanic Verses and going to put it, in the market. I would really doubt that claim because that's not an easy thing. There would be a huge protest, from Muslim fundamentalists. So give this freedom to protest or extend this freedom to protest to Muslim fundamentalists. However, we refuse to extend the similar, right to protest to uh, yeah, Hamid Koskan, because he is burning something that will offend those Muslim fundamentals. That is the problem. That when you have a society, two-tier society, one rule is for one section of the society, the other rule is for other section of the society, then there is always a problem. And right now, to be very honest, this one case has set very dangerous precedent. It has put target on
Look,
everyone,
100%
on
with you.
you, on me, because we all blaspheme when we talk about Islam. We all blaspheme. We know that. That's a blasphemy to question anything related to Islam, associated to Islam, associated with Islam, or anything, any figure, any, I mean, even extended relatives of Muhammad or the companions of Muhammad. Criticizing them is deemed blasphemy. So we know that we are already in a dangerous territory. And having such example being set, it's something that is catastrophe, for our Western democratic values.
Look,
And people always tell me that uh, you you try to defend Western democratic values. It's not because these are universal values. But I would like to give credit to Western democracies who uh, people who have espoused those universal values and tried to respect human dignity or human rights. I mean, this mindset that uh, Charlie Hebdo, Charlie Hebdo's employee should not be killed. But what else did they expect by offending Muslims? The same thing is Hamid Koskun should not be
yeah, yeah, look,
convicted. But what else did he expect by offending Muslims? I mean, this kind of
okay,
society
I agree.
is the same as we have in Muslim majority countries, theocratic, totalitarian, authoritarian. And I mean, any resemblance, I would say specifically for Britain, because I love Britain, I love the society, it's diverse. And literally, people they espouse not only uh, values that coming from different backgrounds and cultures. People literally espouse individuals who are coming from different backgrounds. This country feels like home, and any resemblance with theocratic Muslim states or authoritarian Muslim states of today's Britain, it's deeply, deeply, hurtful, I would say. It's deeply upsetting for individuals like me.
I agree with you 100% like that. I don't think he should be put in prison. I don't think he should suffer any consequences. I do think that I have the right to criticize his type of protest. Like you
Yeah,
said,
yeah.
it's not, I wouldn't do it. I think it's a wrong way to protest a blasphemy law. When I see some of these people do it and they're like, oh, this book is ridiculous, this book is harmful, this book has done this, and then they burn it. I'm like, but you are taking the ideas of that book too close to heart then, because that book tells you to destroy anything that, it tells you to destroy anything that's committing fitna, right? So you're saying, according to your worldview, that book is committing fitna, so you're getting rid of it. That's that, like I'm just saying, if you want to protest the Quran, there are much better ways than burning it or destroying it. And I don't think you should take the ideas of that book too far to heart. And it's ludicrous and like it's a complete and utter betrayal what the British government is doing or any other Western, government from Western liberal democracy when they have these blasphemy laws or de facto blasphemy laws, right? When they put them in, it's a betrayal. I think they should be gone. And I'll be right with you protesting that law. But once you start burning books, I'm walking away. And I don't care what that book is. I don't care if it's a copy of the Protocols of the Elders of Zion or the Bible or the Quran or whatever, Harry Potter, I don't care. I'm not going to be joining in your book burning festival. Like the Enlightenment wasn't called the Enlightenment because the glow of the bonfires of burning books.
I agree on this point that as I said, I disapprove of it. However, when, specifically when ex-Muslims or Muslims or, dissident, when they burn a Quran and they say they are doing it in protest, I say that I don't want to join this kind of protest. However, I just say that I defend your right to do so because you don't live
Yeah.
in Pakistan, in Saudi Arabia, Iran, or Afghanistan. You live in the UK,
Yeah.
and we don't have blasphemy laws in Britain. We got we got rid of them in 2008. I mean, long ago. I
Yeah.
mean, come
Oh,
on.
yeah.
It's
It's the same thing, and it's. But I mean, I also whenever I say that, like, I mean, you know, I say it straight out. It was a German poet, poet from like the 1800s, and it was like Jaime. I forget his name is like Hein or something like that. It was those who burn books will eventually burn people. And it's just, I don't like that mob mentality of getting a bunch of people together to burn a book, whether you do it as an online event or something like that, but you're gathering a mob to burn a bunch of books. And it's just like, there's got to be a better way. Do it. It's your right to
You know,
protest.
but you remember that when Iranian women they burn hijab?
Yeah,
I never did so because I could understand the Iranian women's protest and I could applaud them. I would say that, wow, that's bravery in the face of fear. I mean, that is something remarkable. However, I wouldn't do that because this is not my kind of protest. I would like commend them for doing this because I know that they are putting their lives, at risk when they are doing it. But I wouldn't do it myself because this kind of thing, I just don't think that I can protest like that. It's my ways are different. But again, we are fighting for the democratic values,
yeah,
universal values. And those values, they allow people to protest. And in doing so, if they are not harming individuals, human being, and it is only limited to the books and to the
mm,
papers, I defend their right to do so. I just don't think that this is for me to do, but I can understand why people, sometimes you really want to make your voice heard. And Hamid Koskon actually, if you read his interview, you will realize that actually what he wanted to do is to highlight this one reality that his country is being Islamicized, and he wants to protest that. And again, I wouldn't say that that was the right way to do so, but in a free Britain, in a free democratic society, he has a right to do so.
yeah, 100%. Look, I don't want to take up too much of your time. I've already, squeezed this a little bit longer than I should have. But thank you very much for coming on. If you have any last words, or if you want to let people know where they can get a hold of you or where they can read your stuff, and if you send me any links, I'll include it in the description.
Thank you so much, Abad. It's always a pleasure to talk to you on these issues, and we are both very much, involved in these issues, and we want to really have constructive discussions. And I appreciate the fact that you disagree with me. I don't want to live in echo chamber. This is not me. Would like my ideas to be challenged, and I would be pleased, more than pleased, to be corrected if I'm wrong, to be very honest. I'm open to be persuaded. So this is how I do my things. And if you would like to, uh, follow me or follow my work, I'm very much active on X. Follow me on X, and I will give you my, handle, X handle. So kindly please put it there,
Yep.
the link. And yes, let's have a discussion. Continue this discussion.
Yeah, I mean, okay, like for me, it comes down to the mill, like what you were saying there. Like, so he that knows only his side of the argument knows little of that. And then if you read the mill, he goes on to say, like, if you're going to learn the other side, go learn it from the people that know it best. So, like, I always go to like primary sources or whatever, like obviously I can't read Arabic, but I'll read the Hadith and the Quran in English, and I'll go from like reputable sources and stuff. And it's just, yeah, so it comes down to that. But again, thank you very much. And thanks everyone for listening. I'll be back.